Hey guys, in this project we're going to be looking at the Symfony framework, which is a PHP model view controller framework, and it is comparable to, in my opinion, the Zend framework. It's a little bit more difficult than, let's say, CodeIgniter or Cake PHP, and it's used more on an enterprise level than those frameworks as well. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to be using Symfony 3 because I haven't seen too many tutorials or videos on Symfony 3. They're mostly 2.8. So we're going to be doing that, and we're going to build a to-do list with CRUD functionality. Alright, so we'll be able to create, read, update, and delete to-dos. So it's going to be really simple. I haven't planned out the application, so we're just going to kind of wing it, just like I do in a lot of my PHP videos. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. This is the Symfony website. This is where you can find all the documentation. We're going to click on this big download button here, and you can see that we're going to have to use the Symfony installer. Alright, and first thing we have to do is install that. Alright, so there's commands for Linux and Mac. I'm on Windows, so I'm going to grab this PHP command here. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and open up my command line as an administrator. Alright, and let me make this a little bigger. Properties, cursor, font size, 24. Alright, so let's go to, I'm using XAMPP or XAMPP, which is a local Apache server. So I'm going to go to XAMPP and htdocs. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. Oh, okay, I got to add PHP to my environment variables. Alright, so if you're getting this, just go ahead and let's go to Control Panel and System and Security, System, Advanced System Settings, and then Environment Variables. And wow, I don't even have a path variable. Okay, so if you don't see path here, if you do see it, click it and edit. If not, I'm going to say new path, and what we want to put in here is the PHP installation. So mine is in C, XAMPP / PHP. That should do it. So let's say OK and OK. And I don't know if we might have to restart, but let's see if we can do this. Okay, so I think I'm going to have to restart my system. So I will be right back. Alright guys, I went ahead and rebooted, so let's try this again. So I'm going to grab this, and hopefully this works. Okay, so now let me just check that folder real quick. Let's see, C drive, XAMPP, htdocs, and you can see we have Symfony right there. Alright, so now we can continue here and say, make this a little smaller. Let's do Symfony new, and then our project name, let's just call it to-do list. Symfony is, oh okay, so we got to do PHP Symfony. Okay, finally. So that's going to go ahead and generate a new Symfony project for us. Alright, so now Symfony should be set up. If you're using an Apache server like I am, you could ignore this port 8000 thing. What you want to do is, if we just go to localhost / what was this, to-do list, you should just have a listing of files and folders here. The public URL that you want to go to is localhost to-do list, and then we want to go to web, and that should show you this start page. Alright, now you could use this if you want. This /web, but what I like to do is set up a virtual host file so that we can just, we can add our own domain here. So what I'm going to do is go to my XAMPP folder, then Apache, conf, and let's see, extra, and then the vhost file here. Alright, and then what I'm going to do is, let's see, I'll copy this. This is from the Fuel PHP videos. And I'm just going to change this to htdocs to-do list /web. Actually, you know what we want to do is /web /appdev.php. Let me just make sure that works. Yeah, okay. So that's what we want to do. Since we're in development, you want to use that. And then for the server name, let's just say to-do list. Alright, so I'm going to save that and make sure that you have this line right here uncommented. Okay, get rid of any number sign you see in front of it. Okay, so we'll save that, and then I'm just going to open up Notepad as an administrator because we need to edit the host file. And if you don't open as administrator, you won't be able to save it. Okay, so we're going to say open, and then you want to go to, if you're in Windows, C drive, Windows, System 32, drivers, and etc. And then we're going to view all files, and we want to open hosts. Alright, and then I'm just going to add an entry here for our loopback address, and then we just want to put in to-do list, or whatever you put in the vhost file. Okay, so we'll save that. Now just need to restart Apache. Okay, so we'll say stop. And start. Okay, so now should just be able to go to http to-do list. Alright, so there we go. So that's where our project will live for the time being. Obviously, when you're done and you're ready to deploy, you can upload it to your cPanel host or whatever you're going to do with it for production. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the project to my text editor. So we're going to want htdocs and to-do list. Okay, so this is the structure over here of a default Symfony application. And just to briefly go through this, we have the app folder, and if we open that up, that's where our configs are going to go. Alright, so our database parameters will go in the parameters file. We have our main config. Alright, and then under that we have a resources folder. That's where the views folder is. Alright, and you can see we have a folder called default for basically what you're looking at here. And that's the index, and then we also have this base.html.twig file, and this is the layout. This is what surrounds your views. Alright, so your views will pop out right here, and then you have your head tags, body tags, stuff like that. Now Twig is the template engine that Symfony uses by default. It allows us to use this syntax. Okay, we have the curly braces and then the percent symbols. We can create blocks and different things like that, and that's how we'll include our variables as well. Alright, so we also have, we're not going to be working in the bin directory really. The source or SRC folder, if we open that, you'll see a folder called app bundle. Alright, now Symfony has what's called bundles, and they're basically just isolated bits of code, so they can also be looked at as like plugins, reusable code, things like that. Now you could create your own bundle, but what we're going to do, since this is such a small application, we're just going to use this app bundle, and you can see that it already has a controller folder with the default controller. Alright, so if we look at this, we have our class, default controller, extends controller, and our index action. Alright, so every action is going to be prefixed with the word action. Alright, we can pass in a request object, and here all it's doing is rendering the index template. Alright, I'm actually going to make this wider. All right, so that's where we'll put our controllers. We'll also put our model entities in here. We'll be creating a folder for those. And then that's pretty much it. The web folder, that's the front end part of the application. But yeah, so that's all I'm going to do for explaining the structure here. That's all we really need to know. Oh, routing. That's a pretty important aspect of Symfony. So if we go to config and then we go to routing, you'll see there's not much in this file. Basically what we're saying is that for the controllers in the app bundle, we're going to be using annotations for our routing. Alright, so basically we don't have to put anything in this file. If we go to our controller, which is in source and default controller, this right here is an annotation, and this is what is going to be looked at by the system to determine the routes. Alright, so the slash will go to index action, and you can also give it a name of home page. That way we can access it internally pretty easily. Alright, so this is what we'll be using for our routes, okay, which is kind of a change from a lot of the other frameworks. But I actually like this structure because you can see right away, you know that the slash is going to go to the index action. So from here, what I want to do is just create another controller for our to-dos. Alright, so let's go to our controller folder, say new file, and I'm going to save it as to-do controller.php. Alright, this takes a second. Alright, so we're going to copy the entire structure from the default controller and just paste it in here. And then we're just doing our inclusions up here, things we need. Let's change this to do controller. Okay, then we'll have our index, and for the route we're going to have this go to to-dos, and for the name, let's say to-do underscore list. Alright, and then let's see, let's just test it out. So we'll just say die, and then we'll pass in to-dos. Alright, so if we save that and then go to slash to-dos, okay, so we get our string here that we passed in. Alright, so creating routes and controllers and actions is as easy as that, really. And we can name this whatever we want. I'm actually going to change it to list action. Alright, and this should still work. Okay, so we can change that. And what we're going to want to do is load up a view. Alright, so let's get rid of that die statement. Alright, and then down here, let's change this to do slash index. Actually, yeah, we'll keep that. That's fine. And then we don't need this right here. This is how we can pass in values. Alright, so we're just passing in the base directory as a variable here, but I'm going to get rid of that for now. Okay, so that should be fine. Alright, so now we need to create our view. So let's go to app resources, and let's create a new folder in the views, and we're just going to call this to do. Okay, and then in there we're going to create a new file and save it as index.html.twig. Okay. So now in here, let's just do to do index. Okay, save that. And now we're loading that view. So I'm just going to create a couple more files in the to do view folder. Okay, so this one will be called create.html.twig, and we'll create another one, and let's save that as edit.html.twig, and then we'll create one called let's call it details. Okay, so there's our views. And back to the controller, what we'll do is copy this whole thing here. And this one is going to be to create, so it's going to be to do / create. And we'll call this, actually, you know what, let's call it to do create. Alright, and then we're going to change that to create action. And we want to render to do / create, just like that. Alright, we'll do the same for the other ones. We have edit. Now, the edit and the details are going to take in an ID as well, because we need to know which one to edit. Alright, so to do that, we can say /, then we're going to open up some curly braces, and we're going to put in ID. Alright, let's call this to do edit, and we're going to change that to edit action, and this is going to take in an ID here as well. Alright, we don't need the request here in list, and then down here this is going to be to do / details / ID excuse me, and we'll call this to do details, and then this will be details action. And let's see, we need an ID but we don't need the request, so we're just going to pass in ID, and then here details. Alright, so those are our main actions, and then just to make sure that they're linked to the views, let's say to do create, that's the create view. Then we'll have edit, and details. So now if we go to do / create, okay, that's correct. If we go to edit /1, okay, and then, whoops, wait a minute, edit to do index. Huh. Edit action. Oh, I didn't change this. There we go. And then we'll do details /1. Alright, so we know all of our actions are now linked to our views. So in the next video, what we'll do is we're going to implement a layout, and we're going to use Bootstrap for our layout, just to give us something that's quick, that's clean. I'm not really concerned on how it looks and the the design of it. We're looking at the functionality, so we'll go ahead and do that in the next video.